Hello, 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 hello. Good evening, everyone. Good evening from Ghana. Good afternoon, good morning, depending on the side of the globe that you find yourself. This is Global Leadership Group. Once again, we are here with you to give you very important lessons or training or building capacity of those in leadership or those who are interested in joining leadership. That is our main goal or our main vision. So, on the last Sunday of every month in a year, we bring creme de la creme guest speakers to come and share their knowledge on very carefully selected topics to build capacities of leaders. We build capacities of leaders in um, churches, political, environments, corporate environments, anywhere that leadership is um, needed. So for this evening, we have three very solid guest speakers that I'm going to introduce to you in no particular order. I'm going to start from Mr. Daniel Bree. Mr. Daniel Bree. Mr. Daniel. Okay, so I'll read his profile. Mr. Daniel is a professional banker based in Ivory Coast with a decade of progressive experience spent with Standard Chartered Bank, successfully as a financial market support, credit analyst, and client coverage manager for the Financial Institutions Group, which included banks, dealers, public sector entities, and government, as well as development organization and multilateral. Over the years, Daniel worked on several structured export finance transactions. Also, he supported the closing of significant mandates with the government of Ivory Coast, including Eurobonds, funded risk participation, and syndication deals with other local banks to finance key sectors of the Ivory Coast National Development Program. Daniel is currently the business development manager for ACIP, Africa Catalyst Investment Partners, an investment advisory and capital raising firm based in Hague, Netherlands. Daniel holds a bachelor's degree in business administration from Valley View University in Ghana and currently undertaking an executive MBA with BIM in association with Quebec Business School. Mr. Daniel, you are very welcome. Then our next is Mr. Dayo Bede. Mr. Dayo. Okay, I introduce Mr. Dayo. Mr. Dayo is a tech enthusiastic that believes growth and development is best achieved by brand communicating effectively with other brands. He has a diploma in multimedia from Aptech Institute, Bangalore, India, a BSc in computer science from Valley View, University, Accra, in Ghana, and various corresponding ICT and strategic management courses in Nigeria. He has gained vast and consummate experience in brand management, strategy, design, software engineering, IT development, and management. Whilst working for and with organizations in these fields in Nigeria and abroad, Dayo is a co-founder and was the CEO of Valid, arguably Nigeria's foremost escrow service provider to buyers and sellers online and offline. Valid is recently awarded the Africa's most outstanding fintech firm of the year 2023 by the Fourth African Financial Technology Congress. Also, Dayo Bede was voted Africa's Financial Technology Brand CEO of the year 2023 by Africa Brand CEOs Award. Currently, Dayo is the founder and CEO of Drill, an ed fintech that's a learning and earning platform for late teens and young adults. Dayo is intelligent, determined, and driven with a strong affinity for seeing ideas come alive, both become whole, and add value to life and living. Mr. Dayo, you are welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, sure, welcome. So our next guest speaker, honorable next guest speaker, is not new to the program at all. He is Mr. Desmond Israel. Mr. Desmond Israel. Hello, Mr. Desmond. Okay, so Desmond is an
Hi, Abby. I'm here.
accomplished.
Thank you for
Sure,
having me.
welcome. Mr. Desmond Israel is an accomplished lawyer, a data privacy information security practitioner with a strong focus on open source intelligence gathering and offensive security techniques. With over 15 years of experience in the industry, he has worked across multiple countries, including Ghana, Nigeria, Sierra Leone, and Liberia. As the founder and lead consultant of Information Security Architects Limited, a Rapid 7 Gold partner, Desmond provides enterprise defensive security, cybersecurity solutions to tier one banks. He also serves as a consulting partner for Legal Afrique Unlimited, leveraging his 4 years of legal practice experience with Insian Akwete and Co. as an associate lawyer. During this time, he litigated copyright cases and practiced in various fields, including global data privacy, cybersecurity, electronic transactions, intellectual property, blockchain, artificial intelligence, and electronic communications. Furthermore, Desmond is a distinguished research fellow with the Center for Artificial Intelligence and Digital Policy in Washington, D.C., as well as the Internet Security Alliance in Arlington, Virginia. He currently leads research for XR Security Initiatives, Child Safety Framework for the Child Safety Framework in California, United States. His contributions to the field have been recognized through nominations and awards, including the top 50 individuals leading in legal innovations in Africa, Legal Innovations Award 2020, MTN Ghana Cyber Hero 2020, and Africa Cybersecurity Influence 2019 by Cyber in Welcome. Okay, so we are going to zoom straight into our program now. So I'll start with Mr. Israel. So our topic is leaders in planning. Leaders in planning. Leaders in planning. Since we are beginning a new year, so as leaders, every leader must be interested in planning. Every leader must be interested in planning. Okay, so I'm asking, how do leaders strike the right balance between being visionary in their planning and remain pragmatic about resource constraints and implementation challenges? Mm.
Oh, my apologies. I understand my. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Perfect. Perfect. All right. So, I'm just going to begin that again. So I'm making
Yeah.
the point that once we accept that, leadership itself involves your ability to, guide and influence, the ultimate aim, which is, the collective should be able to reach a common vision. When it comes to issue of striking balance, especially when you are looking at the future of whatever you are doing, whatever the endeavor is, as against what your resources are and the potential constraints that will come with the resources. Over the years, I've come to appreciate something that I termed futuristic adaptation. So you always need to be realistic with the ground requirements. What is happening now within your industry, within your own space, the internal environment? Where do you want to go? So if, for instance, in my case, we are guided by the solutions that we deliver, and I'm speaking from the cybersecurity point of view. We intend to grow the market, and you're looking at the potential of budget constraints, for that in the market growth. So the market growth is something that starts the year's plan. But in this case, because you also know you have resource constraints, the most best strategy, which I call the futuristic adaptation, is to kind of like scale out what your plan is. What you need to have clear goals about these market growth. Are we doing 10% in addition to whatever we have? Are we doing 20% in addition to whatever we have? What is the expected investment into your business development, your advertising, the various engagements, including PR and corporate social responsibility, and what is the return on that investment? What is the anticipated return on that investment? So, for a leader that wants to take a decision into the future vis-a-vis current constraints that may come with resources, again, careful planning is the most important thing. But what I'm selling to this table is that adaptive, futuristic adaptation to whatever you do, so that if you are able to create a forecast of the expectation at the end, you might not need to go a big bang. And these are my personal experiences. You might not need to go a big bang, especially when you mention resource constraints. You would have to scale out and stagger, face out your expectations as to what you want to achieve. So if 20% growth is what is expected at the end of the year, we can go quarter by quarter and trying to see how much we can bring in terms of the numbers to be able to get that done. That would also definitely mean that whatever budget you have would be scaled out as such. And that's why you also need to have sort of negotiations and discussions with your partners. So this futuristic adaptation also means that you're thinking about your stakeholders, especially the external stakeholders who would help you achieve that goal, because these are people who come to the table and they add up to the cost. You invest to meet your goals, and so you need to look at how these things are going to change the dynamics. So you try to have that conversation with your external stakeholders so that you can align. So futuristic adaptation, it includes how you even use technology and how you plan to put technology into some of these things. Like for now, a number of people will be speaking about predictive analysis or predictive analytics, especially when we have the artificial intelligence buzz going all around us. But the truth of the matter is, there are actually tools that can help you to do these sort of predictive analysis and be able to forecast. But what is important is their own internal knowledge, the institutional memory that you have about your engagement with your ecosystem. And that's most important, because if you understand that better, then you can actually do your own predictive analysis and come up with your own futuristic adaptation of how you're going to go in bits so you can meet the ultimate goal. I think the bottom line before I jump off for somebody else is to just ensure that you are aligning that resource to the ultimate goal. You will not have 100% resource to invest into your future plans, but you should have the future plans anyways, and you should stagger them out as to how you want to go, which ones are the low-hanging fruits, which ones are the most important that you can start with until you're able to build up to the final points. I think that would be my opening for this question.
Wonderful. Wow, wow. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. What I picked from there is the futuristic adaptation to everything that you do as a leader, and then all that you added. Thank you so much. Thank you. So my next question goes to Mr. Dio. So, Mr. Dio, please, in what ways do leaders' personal biases and experiences influence their planning decisions? And how can they mitigate potential blind spots? Mr. Dio, no. Mr. Dio, seems we can't hear you. You are muted. Sorry.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yeah, yes.
Can you
So
hear me
please, I
now?
think you need, yes, please. So you need to start
I'm
all over
very
because
sorry.
we couldn't hear anything. Yeah.
Okay, stop. I was talking to myself. Very sorry. Very sorry. Very sorry.
No problem.
I said thanks,
Sure.
and I'm looking forward to learning and sharing. I mean, with the guest speakers, which I've already started doing basically. The question, let me reiterate. It says, in what ways do leaders influence their planning decisions, and how can they mitigate potential blind spots? So,
Yes.
like I said, from the leaders always have to have open mind. I mean, leaders have to be open-minded first and foremost. Why? Because they are the ones that garner and gather the people to work. They are the drivers of the vision. They are the head honchos, as it may, in every organization. So open-mindedness is key. Now, a leader needs to understand that every situation is unique to itself, right? You're human, of course, and then there will always be biases. There will always be experiences that makes you uh, doubt a particular strategy or a particular move. But the fact is, for every action you're taking, for every part of your leadership journey, and for every plan you want to execute, you always need to understand that they're unique to themselves. You cannot carry activities and experiences, in code, maybe biases and experiences from uh, plans and strategies that you executed in the past into the future. This is what I'm saying. Obviously, you need to learn from experience, and leaders grow through experience. But in situations whereby you now take bad experiences, biases, and things that maybe negatively influence the planning and the executions and the decisions that you took in the past, and you bring it into a new plan or a new structure that you're about to execute, the possibility or the probability for you to experience the same negative reactions and negative feedbacks is very high. So, number one, your open mindedness gives you the ability to view every situation as unique to itself. Um, the biases and the experiences that you've had in the past that would obviously naturally influence decisions you want to make at this time will be set back so that you can view all the variables that are on your desk, view all the variables that you need to work with. And most especially, it helps you to open your mind to the variables that are not even in the sets of strategies so that you can think out of the box, and bring in all those, some of all parts, like all the parts that you need to consider when developing, setting all the biases aside. The problem we have in this part of the world, well, in Africa mostly, is that leaders mostly make decisions based on these biases that you're talking about. And the reason why is because, like I said, they're not open-minded, and they're not like Desmond said earlier, they're not futuristic. Basically, in their planning, they plan in time, right? When they're supposed to be planning as against what happens in the future, and that's what is actually dragging the leadership quality and the quantity of, I mean, the capacity of leadership that we should be experiencing in a lot of places in the world, but mostly in our part of the world. That's what's really driving our leadership strategy. I mean, like I said, personal biases, experiences, and all the negative variables that would help you to see, the whole picture of what your plan should be laid down and how it should help to, attain your objectives as a leader. Those personal biases have to be set aside through open-mindedness and through you seeing every situation as a unique variable to itself as you plan and as you grow.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So the summary of what you just said is every leader should be open-minded. Should be open-minded. And that is very, very true. So my next question goes to Mr. Daniel. Mr. Daniel, how should leaders address ethical dilemmas? How should leaders address ethical dilemmas that arise during the planning process, especially when achieving strategic goals with human responsibility?
Thank you, Mrs. Happy.
Mhm.
I'm really excited to be part of this.
Thank you for coming.
I don't know my network. I don't know if it's there to put forth. So the question that you asking right now is about, and what I have on my paper is, how should leaders address ethical dilemmas that arise during the planning process, especially when achieving strategic goals. When achieving strategic goals may conflict with moral responsibilities. I hope I'm right, and I hope
Yeah,
everybody's hearing me loud and clear.
sure. We can all hear you
So
very well.
in this situation, okay, good. In this situation, what we need to understand is that as a leader, you really need to address this the ethical dilemma by prioritizing actually transparency. There should be transparency in the leader's mind in during the planning process, and this actually needs to basically align with the core values of the, if it's the company or maybe the business that you're running. This transparency needs to align with the core values of the company or even the business that you're running, and you need to actually also consider the impact that's going to have on the stakeholder of the transparency needs to be prioritized, and this has to align with the core values of the institution or the company or the business you're running, because that is going to support. And definitely they should also have a kind of engagement, because when you talk about ethical dilemma, it means that they should have some kind of issues within the company or with the individual we are actually dealing with. So they might have some kind of dialogue, open dialogue, and with all the relevant parties. And this is actually to be able to assess the potential harm or benefits those individuals might have in the company, on the corporate, as we talk. So as a leader, you need to have that kind of openness to discuss, dialogue, be in communication as often as you can with the people you work with, or and the people that you're working also that are working with you. So this openness will actually lead you to evacuate, to eliminate any kind of dilemma. Because if there is some process that is set in terms of ethical code, for instance, in the bank I used to work, we have what we call the bank code of conduct.
Yeah.
So within that code of conduct, that I believe many of the corporate institutions do have code of conduct. It actually sets some grounds in terms of how to avoid conflict of interest, how to actually mitigate the risk in terms of conflict, because you do have your responsibilities, and you do also have some time situations whereby you need to take decisions, and these decisions might not should not be the decision that you take to harm the company, harm the corporate, but it has to be a decision that actually takes the company to achieve the goals that the company actually set. And so basically, this transparency and then the dialogue that is opened to all the stakeholders in the company will actually lead you to have a clear way of understanding, avoiding conflict of interest, avoiding what is actually any dilemma that may happen during the conversation, also during the, let's say, planning, because we're talking about planning. So planning is something that is really huge. When we talk about planning, you have a lot of aspects that come together. But basically, you really need to understand that you don't plan alone. That's something that we need to understand. And doing, noticing that you're going to be confronted to other people coming with their mind, other people coming with some kind of a setup, saying, okay, this is what we need to do. You are in your responsibilities as a leader. You need to actually listen to what you're bringing, not to reject it, be open enough to tell them, okay, I heard what you brought as information. Let's look at our core values. Let's look at our, let's say, code of conduct, and all those items need to come together. And then this is actually what is going to happen. So as a leader, you need to actually establish a clear ethical framework or code of conduct, as I mentioned, to guide decision making, and ensure that there's accountability that is going to actually foster a culture where ethical considerations are integrated into the planning process rather than treated as a secondary concern. So this is a point that I just put down as my final word. So need to really understand as a leader a clear ethical framework need to be put in place, and this is also something that's going to support in the decision making and help all the stakeholders in the conversation be part of the conversation, and also avoid any kind of dilemma, because that's where conflict actually arises and then can actually jeopardize the business and then the objective of the company. So that's what I can say on this question.
Great. Thank you so much. So, so valuable. So, what I picked from what you were saying is prioritizing transparency in your
Yeah,
planning. And you must do this with your team. You must do this
yeah,
with your team. Uh-huh. So that everybody's buying is within. And that will assist in arriving or achieving the goal, the corporate goal that um, has been set for you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Daniel. My next question goes to Mr. Desmond. So, to what extent should leaders be held accountable for plans that fail due to unforeseen external factors? And how can they build resilience into their planning process?
Okay, thank you for that. I think the issue of accountability would depend on some factors. So I'm going to use some baselines off the top of my head, trying to see if I can help our listeners to appreciate this. First of all, there has to be some level of accountability boundaries. So if I'm looking at whether the leader was very proactive in anticipating these, as against being very reactive. This is important because you are the leader. You are the one who creates the environment that allows for people to thrive, to that successful end. the ultimate decision making rests with the leader, and therefore when there is a direction, there's a course to take. The assumption is that we are doing that based on the leader's knowledge, the leader's wit and expectations, and the leader's grit. So, and even if that leader consults with people, you expect that quality to still be there. So the first question we'll be asking ourselves is, what's the accountability boundary? Was a leader that proactive? If they are proactive, then definitely the issue of accountability will weigh very low, right? Because we're talking about unforeseen circumstances. But then if they were reactive, then we can equally look at a situation where we are dealing with leaders who do not even plan for the uncertainty, who did not even forecast that. Which leads me to my next point. How far do leaders implement constraint planning, or someone would just say risk, into their planning methodology, right? So internal factors and external factors that could potentially derail the plan as you go along. There are a number of things that you can consider. What's the political climate, and how is that going to affect your plan in the short, medium term, and the long term? Also, you can look at the environmental factors itself. An act of God. Are you working in an earthquake-prone environment? Are there chances that you can have flood? Are there chances that there could be an unrest? So you even begin to look at social issues and where your business is situated. I spoke about the futuristic adaptation. So another question is, do you, for instance, look at technology being, disruptive to your business? If you were in the financial sector and you did not adapt to the fintech module of business in addition to your mainstream financial business, chances are that you'll be missing out of the market by now. But that's an unforeseen circumstances anyway. It was very disruptive that all of a sudden mobile payments took over, and everybody would love to go on a mobile payment because of the ease and access and use of it, as opposed to walking all the way to their bank or their financial service center. So those are things that leaders would be expected to have looked at, and that can be properly captured into your implementation constraint, or what I call the risk. For those who are very, very methodological about some of these things, about PESTEL, and that's something that is relevant. We study these things in college and all, but the truth of the matter is these are the realities that we live when we get into business and when we are dealing with business. There could even be legal issues and regulatory issues that can change the course of your business. So there were people who, for instance, were in the mobile payments services when all of a sudden Ghana, for instance, had the Payment Systems and Services Act, which led to the creation of the Fintech and Innovation Office under the Bank of Ghana. And that became like a regulatory body. And at a point, if you don't have, and as we speak now, if you don't have a license to operate as a fintech, you would not be able to operate. So if you were in the space and you didn't forecast the chances that, hey, is it possible that even regulatory issues could come up? And so you start to make room for that. Or even if you don't make immediate room, like I said, the long-term plan that, okay, I'm going to get myself into that space, because it's not like we never know that there would be regulations. The indications were there. There were countries that were already on regulations. And so for somebody who is a leader, who has that futuristic adaptation, who has a look at the bigger picture, you should be looking out for things happening within your industry and how those potential things may be unforeseen as you keep going. They are unforeseen because we couldn't control them, but they are not unforeseen because we don't know that they exist. We do know that earthquake exists. We do know that floods exist. We do know that regulations exist, but we don't know when it comes to us. That's why when you're planning, you had to bring in that implementation of constraints and all your risk that comes with all that planning. And to sum up my last 2 points, I also think that leaders need a lot of agility. You need a lot of flexibility. That has to go into your planning as well. If you are very more like strict jacket about your business and your plans, and even not just business, everything that you do. If you don't create room for the potential that I could take this road if this road is blocked, or I could pull back if I see A, B, C, D happening, then you're not really doing the leadership work, because your job really is to navigate the waters. It's the job of a leader is typical of a ship captain. The storm may be coming, but you don't know how bad it is. So it is your job to make sure that sailors that are with you are safe, first of all. They can calm the navigation down, and of course, they would be able to get to the destination, albeit how difficult that would be. In a wrap, when we want to deal with how to handle these constraints, it's always about the learning outcomes. The contingency plans that you put in place are about the learning outcomes. You were able to set up contingencies because people have put out their learning outcomes, right? Because like I said, unforeseen circumstances does not mean that it's not happening before. It's unforeseen in your case because it's not something that you were immediately looking out for, but you would have made room on how to handle such a situation. And if you pick up the learning outcomes from others, you may know what sort of contingency plan to put in place. When the pandemic hit, the first contingency plan everybody jumped on was remote work. Why? Because we were already doing remote work. The problem is we did not treat it as the centerpiece of any corporate environment or any enterprise. Nobody did. And I've told this story several times. I remember when I was on this show for the first time. Our company was doing remote work even before the pandemic. We even had clients in Ghana who refused to work with us remotely. They insist on us coming into their offices. But when the pandemic hit, they had to buy into it. So that's what I mean when I say that contingency plans are based on learning outcomes from other circumstances, and that clearly shows that your unforeseen circumstances is seen somewhere else. It's unforeseen in your case because it is not something you ordinarily expect it to happen, including an act of God. So I think I would wrap up here for other panelists to also take up the show.
Wow, that's so deep. Thank you so much, Mr. Desmond. So the keywords I picked from your submission is a leader should be futuristic, should be somebody who is a bigger picture person. Or look at the risk that comes with all. So there should be flexibility about the business planning, so that just in case of anything, in case of any mishap, the leader can assist in navigating the organization or the business or the group or whatever out of the sea safely. That's so deep. Thank you so much. At this point, I'll read a few of the comments from our viewers. Miss Joy Morrison Tego says, "Wow, actually impressed with what she is hearing." And then Data Link side said, "Thank you, Mr. Dayo. Great insights." The next is Joy Morrison Tegu says, "Great program. This is so timely. Thank you." And then In God We Trust says, "Great." In God We Trust again says, "Transparency is the key. Thanks, Daniel." Okay. So these are comments from our listeners, our viewers. So my next question goes to Mr. Dayo. Mr. Dayo, please, how can leaders design plans that are both structured enough to guide action and flexible enough to adapt to unexpected distractions or crisis?
Okay, thanks for that question.
Thank you.
The word that comes to mind, like based on experience and analysis, is contingencies. Contingencies. There is no business plan. There is no budget structure. There is no plan strategy that does not give room for contingencies. An act of God. You basically don't know everything. As much as you know that okay, a few things might go wrong, based on the things that you understand in your environment. But the fact is, since these things aren't happening right now, the best you can do as a leader is to provide or to make allocations for a time where these things pop up so that you can absorb them, more or less like an earthquake. you can absorb it, and then you can grow, from there. Let me just give an example. Um, in Nigeria, here in Lagos, I stay in Lagos, right? Most of the time, anyway. There was we have what we call GoCada, right? Now, GoCada is a bike hailing service, just like Uber or Lyft, the rest of them. But GoCada is the one for bikes. So you have GoCada, we had GoCada, we had Max, NG. These are two prominent ones that provided power bikes, for ride hailing services. Now, they became fantastically, they became, let me not the word fantastically, they became very successful in a short time. Why? Because Lagos has gridlock. It has a bad gridlock problem. We have a traffic situation. We have a serious road mismanagement system. So most of the time in Lagos, between the hours of 9 a.m. and all day, basically from 9 a.m. all the way to like maybe 9 p.m., you have traffic in most of the major roads. So when you have these two companies come and they have ride hailing services, you find out that bike hailing services, you find out that most senior executives are going for meetings across areas in Lagos. They use them instead of luxury cars. Why? Because they need to get to their destinations real quick. I personally, I've had to, I don't know, I don't know how to explain it, but basically, I've had to use their service to get me to places where it would take me 3-4 hours in traffic within the city from point A to point B. It took them 20 minutes to get me there. So this is the thing. They had They had a successful business plan, and they were growing excellently. They had a meeting with the state governor. Now, this is where contingency comes in, to buttress the answer to the question. They had a meeting with the state governor that said, and he said, "Oh no, it's all good. You can expand. You're doing a great service for the state, and we want you to, do more." Right. So the two companies, that's GoCada and Max NG, ordered new bikes, power bikes, millions of dollars. I think GoCada spent in excess of $4-5 million to bring in new bikes, and they got new pilots, that's riders and rest of that, and we're doing fine. 2 months down the line, after they had assurance from the state government that they should go ahead and expand, we had an issue in Lagos that had to do with robberies. So people were using bikes to rob. So you have you've seen this in many videos around the world. So it's not like particular to Lagos. You have the bike, you have the rider, you have the thief at the back, and it goes snatch phones and rest of that. Now, because of that, the state government decided to shut down every ride hailing system. They shut that down. So GoCada and Max NG were at a big loss. So you have these new bikes, you have hundreds of power bikes packed, and nobody could use them to work. So this is where contingency comes in. What they now had to do was they pivoted immediately. GoCada could pivot, and they became a delivery service. You understand? Now, if you're looking at their business plan, of course they were looking to make more, but they were able to pivot immediately, and they became a delivery service, and they could go ahead because they had contingency. They had a plan, for natural disasters. If that happens, but they also had a plan for government disasters if that kind of situation happens. So they pivoted immediately, and then they started, they started delivery services for restaurants and the rest of that. Max NG could not pivot because they had no contingencies. They had no plan beyond what their business plan was. So they could not handle the shock, and they folded. And this is a company that has raised in excess of $20-25 million and has spent, that much, to, develop their brand. So, excuse me, contingency comes to mind straight up for this question. You have a plan that is guiding your vision, but your contingencies and things you've put in place are the ones that act as shock absorbers to ensure that unexpected disruptions do not take you out of business. Rather, you can ride on that wave and even grow bigger and better. And I think that's just an excellent example. I can give more examples anyway, but for time constraint, that's about it. So contingency basically is what helps to solve that situation. Have a backup plan and have a backup for your backup plan. It looks as if it's excessive, but at the end of the day, you find out that these are things you can fall back on to ensure that you stay afloat properly.
backup plan for that backup plan. Wow. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Okay. So my next question goes to Mr. Daniel. Mr. Daniel, please, what strategies can leaders employ to recover credibility and trust after a significant planning mistake or failure?
Well, thank you. This is one critical question. Why? Because that's where you see the difference between a boss and a leader. That's where you see the really particular difference between a boss and a leader. When there is like you actually implemented or you do a plan and then the plan goes to the wrong way. And so basically, uh, I have three words that I want to show to the audience, and those three words are plan, do, and review. Why am I using those three words? Because as a leader, it's actually your goal to be somebody that plans well, not to go into failure. Because any plan that is done really that is properly done with all the aspect put into considerations should definitely lead to a successful end. But as we all say, the word is what it is, and the business world as well. As we from the business perspective, I can talk. We do have some plan that we had. For instance, I can take an example: planning a business, company, a corporate, and all the plan is set well in terms of conversation, discussions. We go, we have paperwork, and then we all have this actually signed. And then maybe there is now a drawdown request. Let's say the company has now to receive the money, the fund, to be able now to kick off the business. And uh, there is some kind of embezzlement. Maybe you give the money to the company and then the money goes to something else, and then it creates a new other situation to the company as well as to the bank that actually, or the, let's say, provided the funding, where you actually see those or the police, the financial police, man. For instance, from the central bank or any other jurisdiction that will come and they say, okay, no, this that has been done is against the rules, against the law. So, as a leader, when there is a failure, you actually need to recognize that. I come back again to the word that I used previously: transparency. As a leader, you will start with your people, and then you did a plan, you did a strategic planning and everything, and it goes wrong. As a leader, you need to be able to take that as your own, because uh, by doing so, you're actually teaching the people you're working with to actually be mindful of what you guys are doing. So accountability needs to also appear here. But as a leader, you need to be transparent. Nobody knows everything. You know, as I mentioned yesterday on the result, you might have a PhD in economics, but fail in the economic proposal for, let's say, the country or maybe the company you're working with. That can happen. But you need to be humble enough to say, okay, we did do this plan. We took every aspect into consideration, but it failed. So I know that we didn't do it well. So for that reason, let's have something written down. So I put something here that I want maybe to share a small sentence that actually is really interesting. I said, you need to acknowledge actually the failure openly. You need to take full responsibilities as a leader. You need to transparently communicate the loss. That's one critical aspect I want people to also understand. That's why I shared to you the three words: plan, do, and review. Everything that you guys are doing as a leader, you need to really take good notes and really emphasis on the planning. But when you're doing the planning, there's going to be execution. And it's through the execution that sometimes you might end up having a failure. So when it gets to that level, you need to get to the status whereby you review the planning. You need to be humble enough to review that planning, and by doing so, you can share the lesson learned about what didn't work and then we failed, so that tomorrow we do it differently, not to go to the same direction. So I think I want to stop here by sharing those three words again: plan, do, review. It needs to be in the leader's mind. Anytime you're doing a plan, it doesn't mean that the plan is going to be successful because you plan it well. Even that you are executing the plan doesn't mean that by executing it's going to be successful. Failure can happen, but you need to be humble enough to recognize that, take full responsibility, and then bring out the lesson learned when there's a failure, and that will enable you to review again the plan at a certain point of time to all the necessary ingredients for now.
Great. Thank you so much, Mr. Daniel. Thank you so much. So what I picked from what you're saying is planning and then reviewing should be very, very important to us as leaders. Planning and reviewing. And you review and you take responsibility just in case anything goes wrong. Because it is not always automatic that whatever you plan will go successfully throughout as planned. So when you detect something is going amiss, you accept responsibility as a leader, and then you go back to the drawing table, identify the point of failure openly, and then you um, agree, and then to do things differently. Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much. And I'll read another the comments from our viewer. Um, Eja Anu, Eja Anu says, it takes an efficient and effective leader to identify and capitalize on some of these contingencies and use it optimally to the benefit of the business and team members. Thank you so much. In God is Trust says, well spoken, Dio. Ejano says, thank you, Mr. Daniel. Ejano again says, if we plan and add contingencies, we will not stop or fall back when we fail. Thank you so much. Thank you. Sorry. Thank you. So my next question goes to Mr. Desmond. Mr. Desmond, how do power dynamics within organizations or teams impact the planning process? And what can leaders do to ensure equitable participation and decision making?
All right, thank you. That's another great question. We seem to be having solid questions back to back this evening.
Thank you.
So the planning process is essentially decision making at the core. So there are a few things that can actually be, they can be what you call not necessarily showstoppers, but like the question put it, they could impact the process of planning, which more like they become bottlenecks. I think that's the word I was looking for. The first is that when you have these sort of power dynamics at play, you're going to be looking at the suppression of views. Okay, because those with the power dynamics would essentially be suppressing diverse views from other, and especially when you have people in the minority, or people who around the table as stakeholders, they don't have a high level of influence in the decision making process. Now, when someone do not have a high level of influence in the decision making process, does not mean that they don't have value that will go into that decision-making process, that planning process. I give you an example. You look at people who work on a factory floor and a process manager who wants to implement a queuing theory. I mean, the people who struggle to get the production done are the people on the factory floor. They can tell you how long they've been, on the factory floor, how long the turning of the machines take them, the consistency, and how they are able to deal with fatigue and all that. But when there is power dynamics at play, we could have a process manager who decides to just go and deal with because he is middle level manager, he can just deal with the leadership at the top and just get the decision done without necessarily involving the people on the floor who may be impacted with the ultimate planning planning process. Another point that you can also look at is the potential of an imbalance in the decision making. So you can have a decision that pretty much skews to the power players, and I've seen this play out a lot from my legal part, where I've been representing clients when it comes to labor issues. Well, a few of them, and in one of those situations, you find out that there's been scenarios where, when there were decisions planning as to how remuneration was going to be implemented for the entire staff, people who ordinarily thought that something was going to come their way were totally cut off for one reason or the other. Probably they were not found very important in the process. But what I saw throughout my engagement with both clients and companies and all that, it was clear that when there is power play, when there is power dynamics, in the decision process, some people are totally off, and that's where there is a great imbalance in that decision making, where people are looking out for themselves rather than looking out for the collective, because like I indicated earlier on, leadership is about guidance, it's about inspiration, it's about influence. These are the three things of a leader. If you are not exhibiting these three things, obviously you are not pulling the team along. There would also be conflicts and competition when power dynamics are at play. Even at the top where the power dynamics is happening, there could be conflict and competition. And then of course bias would come in. One of our speakers mentioned that, I think it's Daniel, if I'm not mistaken, he spoke about biases. And that's a very good point. Biases even becomes more prevailing when you have power dynamics at play, and that can impact the decision making process. And of course there would also be resistance to change. I've seen one when the change process has to do with technology, and people on the board who are not tech savvy, and then some other people on the leadership, we felt like, oh, this is just going to create a bottleneck. We will need now that we have to all go back and go and learn, but that is the cost of adaptation, to learn. But because they have the power to slow down the implementation of that technology, they put it into play, and it did affect planning as it were in the time. Just a few pointers on these ones that I've discussed concerning strategies that can happen, and I'll just wrap them up. I think we need some bit of psychological safety for people to be able to voice out. As soon as you see there is power dynamics at play, you need to create a safety net. People must have a space, a safe space where they can communicate genuinely and openly about issues, so that it can get into the planning process for them. And then you may have to decentralize decision making, right? So that you get a balance and an input that would help in the final delivery of the plan. We could also look at the potential of actively addressing bias, so that people will feel confident that when issues of bias is brought to the table, there is an answer to it. But where they feel that their points, their needs are not being taken care of, especially when bias is at play, they will call back. You don't have a team anymore. You just have a group of people who are there because they've not found another option yet. And that would be a leadership failure. We'll wrap it up with two things. We have to leverage transparency processes when there are power dynamics at play. And of course, you have to adopt collaborative leadership. That way you get, should I say, you get to sort out both sides. More like you get to balance the power dynamics as against the collective good or collective interest of the organization. And I think that would do for me.
Yeah. Thank you so much. So thank you so much, Mr. Desmond, for these very valuable points. I go to read another message from our viewers. Joy says full responsibility is a leader's tool when it comes to planning. Thank you very much, sir. Yeah. Okay. So my next question goes to Mr. Dio. What role should leaders play in balancing competing interests when planning for the future of an organization, community, or initiative? Mr. Dio, please, we can't hear you.
Oh, hello, can you hear me now?
Okay, yes, please. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I think my network is a bit funny this evening,
Yeah, yeah.
unfortunately, but just bear with me.
Yes,
Um,
please. That's okay.
okay, so basically, there's this notion, right, that most leaders, I mean, naturally, most leaders want to do good things. Most leaders want to plan as best as possible for their underlings and for the people they govern. I mean, so that everything can go as well and as planned. You know, manage their resources properly and rest of that. Be equitable. You know, make sure every aspect of the organization, every competing interest is resolved and is taken care of. But the problem with that, and I'm trying to be very realistic right now, the problem with that is leaders who think that way end up doing nothing. Now, most leaders who are looking to do good things, you know, in quotes, looking to take care of all competing interests, right, end up doing nothing. But effective and efficient leaders end up doing good things. Now, let me just put that in broad perspective. Right. As a leader, you set out to run a group of people. And this does not necessarily mean within an organization. It might be a smaller, you know, group of people, just friends and rest of that. There will always be competing interest. It's a fact of scarcity, you know, supply and demand. Every unit who feels that they have more leverage wants the best, regardless of what every other person has or needs. Now, as a leader, especially a leader of a team or a group of people that you've recognized that there are several competing interests or groups in this team, you need to be very disassociated, right? You need to dissociate yourself rather from trying to be a people pleaser. You also need to dissociate yourself from trying to create an avenue whereby all good things are done and taken care of, because that takes you away from the core vision that eventually is the big picture that provides resources, equitable resources for every, you know, members of your group. Let me give you an example. um I ran Valid, right, and we did good, and I'm running another fintech right now. I've been in the fintech space for about 12 years, give or take. Now, something that is constant within the organizations I run, especially the fintech one, is the group of engineers and their needs and their wants, and then the group of marketers and their needs and their wants. Right. Now, if I go into this system, if I'm in the system and most of the time I'm trying to, and I want to balance and make sure that all the marketers and all the engineers have all they need and they're all happy, then at the end of the day, I'll fail because I cannot take care of that insatiability that they have. And that's the gospel truth. So, what I've done personally as a leader is to ensure, first and foremost, that everyone is on board at the beginning, especially when you're doing planning that has to go across board for the entire organization, not just group planning. Not just section planning, group planning. Everyone is on board, not just their representative. We host a whole round table. We create a focus group that involves everyone so that all the needs are placed and all the resources available for those needs are placed. So you can call it like a guilt trip kind of system whereby I put everything on the table and then we plan accordingly, distributing these resources fairly, equitably to everyone and to every need as best as we can. Now, the truth of the matter is that some people will not get taken care of, but you need to take care of those prevailing needs from the two groups so that the prevailing needs, when taken care of, will end up as a ripple effect, taking care of the other needs that are their underlings. If you don't do it now, if you do that, of course, the needs that are not met initially, there will be uproar, but that's why you're a leader. You take it, the bulk stops on your table, and you ingest that because you know that down the line, because you've seen that this system works and it helps to ensure that competing interests don't compete with the vision and the core structure of what needs to be done. If that is not done at the end of the day, and you're looking to be a good leader, in quotes, you end up doing nothing. And the same people who you're trying to, ensure that everything is taken care of for them will turn back and say that you're a bad leader, that you got nothing done, and you're not effective enough. But when you do these things, sometimes you need to make sure that when you do these things, sometimes, right, you find out at the end of the day, the ripple effect is they see they see the activities, and in retrospect, they can see what you did with hindsight, right? To see that, oh yeah, this was done, put in place for us to have, the ripple effect and for everybody to be reached. So first and foremost, as a leader, you need to dissociate yourself from that whole idea of trying to be a good leader, in quotes. Be an effective leader, be an efficient leader. One. Two, make sure you carry everybody along. Let them know the resources that are available and let them know the problems that those resources need to fix. So that at the end of the day, you put a dialogue out there and then everybody gets what is available in that time to make things done. And then you need to let them understand that it has to roll downhill. Because as you're taking care of them, as a leader, you have lieutenants, and these lieutenants need to make sure that the other people are also taken care of as time goes on, so that you can achieve that plan or that strategy of making sure that all these competing interests are met. Not totally at the beginning, but down the line, this will be done. This is what I've used over time in at least 3 different organizations, and it has worked effectively. Because what happens is you've not only helped to allocate resources properly, you've not also helped to make sure that competing interests in a good scale have been met initially, but you've also taught your people how to use resources effectively down the line. That helps with delegation also as a leader. So that's exactly those are the 2 points. Number 1, dissociate yourself from trying to be the good leader, be effective and efficient. And number 2, carry everybody along. Make sure everybody sees what is available. Nothing is hidden. Be open. My co-speakers have talked about transparency. This also comes in. Let them know what is available. At the end of the day, they will say, Oga has allocated some, ones and twos to his own content, but that's not true. But you can't tell them it's not true because you didn't open up to let them understand what resources are available. But strategically, resources that needs to meet what needs to be done. So that's it basically.
Yeah. Thank you so much. That's very true. Thank you so much, Mr. Dio. I've been elected. We are going on a very short break, and then we'll be right back. Welcome back. Thank you. So my next question goes to Mr. Daniel. Mr. Daniel, how can leaders ensure that their plans are not only successful in the short term, but also sustainable and beneficial for future generations?
All right, thank you. I really love what has been said. It's a really valid point. Question is happy. How can leaders ensure that their plans are not only successful in the short term but duration? In everything that we do, we must actually have in mind that future generation is actually of any organizations, even as countries, as businesses, as entities, institutions. And sustainability is actually one. The World Bank, you look at all the big institutions in the world, they are all actually embedding the sustainability agenda into their planning, into the even the goals that they're actually putting together. So if we take, for instance, so there is people that are actually set aside are working on all sustainability investment, meaning that if you come with a project that is going to impact future generation positively, the bank is going to look at it. And then have some aspects, some metrics that will actually identify to support you in that. So, because as I mentioned, when I received the question, I took some notes, and on this particular one of the items I want to share with the audience is to know that as a leader, uh, the plan that you need to ensure that the plan that you actually put in place, when it comes to planning, the folks don't plan for failure, and this also need to actually engulf the sustainability agenda, as I mentioned, for future generation, but mental, social, economic goals also need treatment. That forgetting about also innovation, because one of the items that we actually looking today, I think Desmond mentioned about it. We have today the artificial intelligence that is actually businesses trying to create new businesses and new corporate with those information. But in terms of that in mind, saying that okay, I have an example, a critical example, because I work with as a banker formerly, and even right now as a advisor. I work with the government of Cote d'Ivoire. So the government of Cote d'Ivoire has what they call the National Development Plan. I think even in Nigeria and Ghana and everywhere they do have this, that they actually come together with all the ministers. They will bring all their planning. They will bring all their goal, what they want to achieve for a certain period, and then they came up with a document called the National Development Plan. I think I have some paper that I could have shown, but because of timing. So in that National Development Plan, you do have all the sectors that need to grow. And those sectors that need to grow, they also take into consideration the future generations. Saying that, okay, we're going to green business. Right now, actually support what they call the green business. Green business, why? Because they need to leave the continent, Africa and the world, safe for the future generation. If you remember, there is one critical point that even the African and the world, they actually having some kind of metrics in terms of carbon reduction. Why do we carbon reduction into the banks or into corporate? If you take some of the corporate societies in most of the companies in the world today, they want to that they need to use carbon, they use carbon because of the future generation. We need to leave our health, have something left for them tomorrow. So in that period, you see our national in the country taking this as aspect whereby all those we're thinking about those that are going to be born maybe in the next, to say all the jobs that we are now actually putting together needs to be benefiting those people that are coming. That's what I think it's something as a leader we have accountable.
Mr. Daniel,
It's
your
the same
voice
as
is
the
so
Ghana
low.
Cocoa Board. In
Your
this
voice is so
company,
low. I can't hear anything. I don't know whether the
my,
others
my
are
voice is low.
hearing. The voice is so low.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
It's
Oh, but I'm
slightly
shouting.
better.
Maybe the
Okay. Okay. You
Can you hear me now?
just slightly better. Mhm. Okay. You continue.
Am I audible?
Yeah, you're
I'm-
audible. It's fine.
It's
Am I audible now?
Yeah, you're good. You're good.
okay.
Am I audible?
Okay. Okay. You please continue.
Okay. So, all right, I have to take off the earpiece. I think that'll be one of the problems. So, as I was saying, we have our Ghana Cocoa Board, the same as the Ghana Cocoa Board in Ghana, and they have actually implemented what they call the Sustainable Development Plan for Cocoa. And in that Sustainable Development Plan for Cocoa, they actually try to promote both short-term economic benefits for cocoa farmers and long-term sustainability to encourage the environmental friendly farming practices and also improve farmer welfare and diversify into other agricultural products, ensuring continued growth and stability for the future generation. This plan that they actually set is to encourage, for instance, young people that are moving from the schools. They actually open schools that are called professional schools, whereby those that were always focusing on finance or focusing on computer science, they try to now create some schools that are really professional in such a way that they can use their computer science that they know and then develop other items in such like farming with IT. We have artificial intelligence being used for farming in the country, and all these are being built. And then they actually set up this program with billions of CFA that is set together for the young generation. They even have the Ministry of Employment for Youth that actually comes up with every plan and program that is to be considered. So for me, I think for one aspect, but they are putting in place is something that is durable, sustainable, and also benefit those that are coming. Because if it benefits only the generation now and tomorrow, the other generation have to build something all over again, that's not a planning. For me, plan needs to be something that's continuous and is benefiting to the others. So I was breaking down. I don't know if you guys got most of the point that I'm making, but for me, the success as a leader is something, but ensure that all the plan that we put in, take it to conclusion the next 10, 15, 20 years. That's something that we need to be really to be in a leader's head. If you take our presidents, when they come for election, for instance, I'm not being political here, but I'm just saying, when they come for elections, they have their political program. They tell you, okay, in this north region, we're going to implement, we're going to build factories, we're going to put on those and those. But all these items that they're bringing is just to let you know that, okay, they're caring about the future generation. But when these are being implemented effectively, definitely it's going to be for the future generation. But when it's the other way around, though being successful, you impact actually the future generation because you're not leaving anything for them. So for me, I think that's really critical. That success is something, but future generations need to enjoy the success today and tomorrow.
Thank you so much, Mr. Daniel Levy. Thank you for your submission there. So our final question goes to Mr. Desmond. Hello. Hello. Hello, Mr. Desmond.
I don't know if I heard. So it's okay.
Okay. Sorry, I think the network wants to misbehave. So, Mr. Desmond, how should leaders approach planning in a way that considers global challenges like climate change, inequality, and technological disruption while staying focused on their core mission?
Mm. All right. Okay. I think because we are looking at global challenges and we are looking at technical trends, we can align with this idea of the SDGs, for instance. So, for instance, by way of example, how does a leader embed these sustainability resilience into their planning? So, it could be depending on what they are doing, you want to reduce carbon footprint, for instance. That should be part of your planning because you intend to deal with that global challenge. So it should be part of the planning so that you can consider how your operations can be optimized to reduce that carbon footprint. We can also look at energy efficiency, look at green technologies. You can look at maybe paperless work, all these ways by which you can actually meet that global challenge. So first of all, you have to embed that sustainability resilience into your plan. It has to be part of your plan because if you don't embed them in there, then they become an afterthought. You only begin to work on them when you hit with a snag or when it comes to you that you need to do something about it. But I think for a very strategic leader and for what I've identified as a futuristic adaptability, things should be part of the design of the plan. So I'm saying that sustainability by design, right? In that plan, before the plan comes out, as you go through the thinking process of the plan, as you engage stakeholders, both internal and external, as you consider the risk, the constraints that comes with your kind of operations or your business or your endeavor, I'm saying that you need to embed sustainability resilience into it to the extent that you want to address the global challenge. It has to be part of the plans. So yes, I just named a few of them. The energy and one, carbon footprint reduction is another, green technology is another. You can also look at ways by which you promote, resource sufficiency and things like that. So I believe that it has to be part of the plan going forward. So you have what you call sustainability by design. So the plan is robust to that. For technology, Dio gave a lot of very beautiful scenarios from Nigeria on the bike hailing app. You could see how they were switching to adapt. In Ghana, I have a client in the hospitality industry, and in 2014 we had a meeting where they had diversified, and they've diversified not because they so much wants to diversify, but it felt like a lot has changed, and one of the climate factors is not helping them as well. So they were converting part of the hotel into Airbnb, just so they would be able to accommodate more people who are coming in for what we've come to know as Dirty December, which is more like a fun approach, or a fun seeking tourism platform for a lot of diasporans across the world. So they've created that Airbnb facility, and they are leveraging on the Airbnb app to represent themselves there and create special modules and offers Airbnb to get people to come in there. So they haven't created a platform for that yet, but they've leveraged on an existing platform. And I think that's how leaders are supposed to adapt and proceed when you're looking at global climate change, global challenges. When you're looking at technology, you have to be innovative, and being innovative doesn't necessarily mean that you are going to design everything and build from scratch. You can leverage. You can also decide to build from scratch if your digital transformation agenda is such that it can support support you creating your own digital infrastructure to do the bidding of your plan, then so be it. Otherwise, the more strategic way to look at it is see what is out there, that makes it easier for you to leverage and get going. Another example too that I can give is, it's still coming from a hospitality industry, but this time around, the client has so much happening in their kitchen, and they feel like the hotel, the customer base is not really consuming. They are not making optimum use of the kitchen. That's a much better way to put it. And so what did they do? They now sign up as a canteen service. So the hotel, on the quiet, before their competitors also get to know, that hotel is a canteen service, and they are a canteen service to strategic schools. So they've taken some of the international schools, a number of them, and they've created a platform where, so that's another client, right, where the schools onboard their students who have made some level of prepayment for their lunch, and they can choose their menus and everything, and it goes to their hotel's system that has been built, and then they would process it and they deliver the food in bulk to all students who have chosen to have lunch on the day. And now he thinks that the hotel has gotten to an optimum, the kitchen has gotten to an optimum usage point, because they are still paying staff and they need to find a way to make use of them. But the hotel itself and its guests is not really consuming as much as the kitchen will. But now the kitchen has now become a canteen service through the hotel's connection to be able to do that. And that's the use of both technology and strategic partnership. So I just wrap it up here, allow my other colleagues to make an input on this very one, which is an important point.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mr. Desmond, Israel. So your keywords I picked from what you said: sustainability by design, leveraging on what is out there that can assist you. So the few words I picked, which are very key to me. We've all too soon we've come to the end of our show. So I'll give the last opportunity to each one to wrap up for us. Maybe a very brief summary, 1 minute, 1 minute, 1 minute each, so that we come to the end. So Mr. Desmond has spoken. We'll start from Mr. Dio.
Thank you. This programs like this, projects like this, they go a long way, because let me just add to, what Desmond said in the concerning the last point. In terms of how should leaders approach planning, to take care of these big things that seem like global challenges, climate change, inequality, technological disruptions, and the rest of that. But just to add to that, in summary, programs like this, like I said, they go a long way. No man is an island, especially leaders. No leader is an island. We learn from each other, we grow with each other, and we share experiences that helps us to sort of capture what needs to be done, capture how we can go about providing the best services for our people, and also, creating the best environment, through our leadership. So programs like this, like the Global Leadership Program, and other programs that helps us to all come together to discuss, share ideas, grow, network, and learn new things. Because today I've heard from Daniel, I've stolen some ideas. I've heard from Desmond, I've stolen some ideas. I've learned new things, and these are things that will obviously assist in terms of creating the kind of leadership or the kind of leader that we all are aspiring to be, basically. So beyond all points, thanks for the time. Thanks for the two people that I know Daniel from way back. So I know that Daniel has always been, in his leadership stride. And I'm also happy to meet Desmond for the first time. I'm sure we'll connect beyond this, and we can learn more from each other. So this is laudable. This helps us to grow. This is a good step towards building good leaders. Thank you, Madam Happy, for moderating this. Also, it goes a long way to help us to also craft, in terms of all these topics, all these ideas, all these questions. It helps to also open our mind further to grow as leaders. If you stop learning as a leader, then you're not leading anything. You need to learn. You need to, or the best part is where you need to unlearn and relearn. You understand? And those are the things where we do with it. So thank you very much for the time, and God bless. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much too for all that you have also told us. We have also learned from them and our viewers too. And Mr. Daniel, your last word also to our viewers. Mr. Daniel, do you have any last word for our viewers? Mr. Daniel,
Yes.
please, do you have any last
Yeah,
word?
yeah. Thank you. I just want to really express my appreciation to the Global Leadership Group. I just want to appreciate. I just want to express my appreciation to the Global Leadership for inviting my small person to this program. I really enjoyed to Desmond and Dayo, and I believe that all the audience has actually captured the most critical, important information that we put to them. It's a part of our experiences that we share. I believe in some other circumstances they will have maybe to go and tell them about leadership, but this is really an interesting program, and I hope that's not going to be the last one I'll be participating to. And for me, open yourself to meet other, talk to other people, share knowledge. Because so for me, I believe that is one critical item that all those that are listening to us might bear in mind. A leader is somebody that listens. Leader is somebody that actually also share. Because when sharing, which you also receive, as the Bible said, there is joy in giving than in receiving. So I believe this platform is a really key platform, and I really, really appreciate invite, and I can't wait to the next one that's going to come. So the viewers, and thank you very much. Thank you very much, everybody.
Sure. Thank you so much. So all too soon we've come to the end of our program. This evening has been, something else. Thank you so much to our honorable guest speakers, Mr. Israel, Mr. Dial, Mr. Daniel, and then backstage we have our honorable communications manager, Mr. Chris, without whom this will never have happened. Thank you so much for always being behind us, doing everything possible. Thank you. We've learned a lot. In fact, myself, I've learned a lot, and I'm sure our viewers have also learned a lot to help us run as leaders, to be able to push our teams to arrive at or achieve all the goals for our institutions or our churches or whatever group we are leading. So until next month, by this time, we say goodbye from the Global Leadership Group. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you and goodbye.
Thank you. Goodbye. Enjoy the rest of
Bye.
the night.